Hi, my name is Deborah. I love to walk in the woods, and while I'm walking, I love to look for hidden creatures. If you look carefully at rocks and branches and fallen trees, you can find all kinds of things that look like faces and animals. And if you use your imagination, you can find things that are not quite real animals, but some kind of fantasy creature. Then you can use words to describe them and make up stories about how they live. Let's go for a walk, and I'll show you some of the hidden creatures that I've found. This forest path is nicely carpeted with pine needles. Oh, and just in front of me, there's a baby porcupine. You can see its nose, and you can see its quills, or some of them. It's a good thing I don't have to worry about getting stuck with porcupine quills. I see something with two eyes looking at me. What is it? Is it an owl? Oh, this is the rare flat-topped owl with two long tusks. I don't think this creature has ever been seen before. Here is a tree whose bark split a long time ago, and somebody, probably a woodpecker, has drilled holes in it. Oh, and look what's living in one of the holes. Some kind of lizard. I might expect to find a bird or an owl in a hole like this. But this hole is only about 1.5 inches in diameter. So I guess it was a perfect home for a baby lizard. While you are walking in the woods, look carefully where you put your feet, because you never know when you might find a big serpent. This looks like a very friendly serpent. I'd like to pet it, and I think it would let me. Would you like to pet it too? Can you hear the wind? A big gust just came up. You can see the branches blowing in the wind. And I'm in a field of ferns, and what is that? Oh, it is a baby rhinoceros. Look at that. You can see its horn on top of its snout. You can see its eye. You can see its upper jaw and its lower jaw. Oh, it is having a fine time in this field of ferns. It obviously loves ferns. And it's enjoying the wonderful fall weather. You can find lots of faces in trees and branches. The knots where branches have fallen off a tree look like eyes. This face reminds me of an owl. This branch, covered in lichen, reminds me of a smiling horse. Can you see the smile? And the end of this branch looks like a snapping jaw. Maybe it's a snake's mouth. Sometimes the shape of a branch looks like a body. Could this be a pterodactyl? You can see its short wings flapping. It's a lovely day for a walk in the woods. The sun is shining through the leaves. Oh dear, I wonder why this tree is so grumpy. It has 2 different colored eyes, and it has 2 lips, and its mouth seems to be wide open, and it has whiskers coming out of the corner of its upper lip and its lower lip. If I get a little closer, you can see these whiskers even a little better. And if I get closer still, we can see that the whiskers are barbed wire. Someone has put barbed wire around this tree to make a fence, and the poor tree grew bark around the wire to heal the wounds. No wonder Mr. Grumpy is so grumpy. I'm standing in a field of ferns. They certainly look like a good place for a dragon to live. And sure enough, there is a dragon. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to live in a field where all you have to do is put your nose down and munch on green vegetables? You can see this dragon's moose-shaped head and 1 long horn coming out the top. And it's got kind of a hollow body, like it's got a window in its stomach so we can see all the ferns it has already eaten. Wouldn't you like to go up close and pet this dragon? I would. I guess this dragon was really the root system of a tree that had fallen down, so I plowed through the ferns to get a closer look. Sure enough, now you can clearly see massive roots. From this view, you can't see the tree's trunk, so I tromped around to the other side where the trunk is lying on the ground. Now, I'm standing on the long trunk, about 15 or 20 feet away from the dragon. You can see a smaller tree that has fallen across the big trunk. The big trunk has lots of white fungus growing on it. I think they could be remnants of the dragon's scales. I just found another prehistoric bird. I think it might be a relative of the big dragon I found in these woods yesterday. Let's have a look. And there she is. What a beautiful bird. If we step back a little bit, we can see that she is part of an uprooted tree stump. Sometimes you have to step back a little bit and then forward to find the hidden creatures. As I walked down a path into a valley, I saw this very happy creature. It has such a big smile. I thought at first it looked like a happy pig. After stopping to admire it, I walked on, but I couldn't resist turning around to look back and see what it was doing. From the other side, it looks quite different. It seems to be captive in a field behind a fence, and it's sticking its head out to people walking by, asking, "Do you have any food for me? Please pet me. I promise I won't bite." I took some more steps beyond and looked back again. Now, from a greater distance, I could see its legs and its long neck, almost like a giraffe. And I could hear it begging, "Please let me out of the zoo." In the camera, it's hard to tell the real trees from the reflected trees. Now it becomes clear. Let's walk along some. Uh-oh, a rattlesnake. I don't think I want to get any closer. The rattlesnake is actually a root of a yellow birch tree growing over a rock. Look down at the ground and you will find some amazing root creatures. Here's another one. When I came across this one, I saw a giant chicken's foot. I showed it to my brother David, whose imagination is even more fanciful than mine. He told me he sees a spoon-billed snake with 2 wings and 2 legs. This is a 6-toed sloth. You might have heard of the 3-toed sloth. It lives in tropical rainforests. Sloths are lazy. They spend most of their time sleeping while hanging upside down by their toes from a branch. Since they hardly ever move, people think they're very lazy, and the word sloth means lazy. Well, this 6-toed sloth isn't hanging upside down. It's standing straight up. But it hasn't moved in all the weeks I've been watching it. It's so still that you can see a little schnauzer dog comfortably lying on its rightmost toe. Can you see the dog's eyes, nose, and pink tongue? The tongue is a red maple leaf. I think I'm seeing a baby fern bird. It's still in its nest, and it's practicing flapping its wings to make its first flight out of the nest. It's a little bit afraid, but it's practicing and practicing. And one of these days, it's going to take off and become a flying fern. Could these be baby storks just emerging from their nest? I'm not sure what this monster is, but the friends I'm with have several ideas. Is it an octopus? Is it a giant tick? Is it a spider? This tree has a big nose, and it's smelling something not very pleasant. Look how it's wrinkling its nose. Ooh, P.U., that stinks. Well, we'll try to find you some flowers, Mr. Tree, and give you something sweeter to smell. Here we have the spiny-backed heffalump. It's got its nose in the ground, munching on ferns, and nobody is going to interfere with this guy because of his long spines. Woodland fantasy creatures do lots of different things. Here is a lizard peeking out of its nest. It's hungry and wants to go hunting for food, but it doesn't want to get eaten by something bigger, so it's checking to make sure the coast is clear. This is a fighting spider. It has 1,000 legs to kick away its enemies. One time, as I was making my way carefully over roots and rocks, I had my eyes to the ground and saw this rabbit-eared snake slithering slowly toward me. It looked friendly, so I wasn't worried. This dead tree stump has only 2 pointed slivers of wood remaining. It reminds me of a wolf pointing its chin up in the air, howling away. It's not as realistic as some of the other creatures, but I think it could be how a modern sculptor like Picasso or Giacometti might imagine a howling wolf.
Right?
You're gonna be in it.
Clawing its way out.
What is it? What is it,
This
Ola?
looks like a T-Rex, Ola, right?
with his long head, vicious mouth out to the left, those claws. But maybe he.
I think it's a fantasy creature.
Maybe it's a mix of a T-Rex and a Brontosaurus. Look at that long, gigantic tail. Right. That's out of an extramarital relationship produced a mongrel child, the mongrel dinosaur. Look at this little man, this big nose and his 2 eyes, crawling out of the tree here just above its home.
What's he doing?
He's looking at you, trying to figure out who you are and what you're doing here. This is his terrain, his woods. He's not so keen on having visitors. That's why he crawled out. Well, bye-bye, we won't bother you too much.
Now I'm down by a stream. You can hear the water trickling. I wonder what lives in this stream. Oh, a pointy-nosed ram with a long tail. You can see its horns curling forward. You can see its front legs. And you can see its long body that reaches all the way across the stream. It doesn't need a bridge to cross the stream because it is a bridge. This creature is just finishing the last bite of something. It looks like maybe the tail of a lizard. I bet that was a good meal. There's a screech owl. There it is. The screech owl is really a burl. A burl is a kind of deformed growth on a tree caused by viruses, funguses, or insects. But burls are often beautiful shapes. How about this great blue heron perched in a tree? Look carefully. Can you see that it's a twisted branch? Its body is probably a burl, a kind of swelling on the branch. Did you know that humans can be found in burls too? Look at this woman's nose, lips, chin, and her beautiful curly hair. You never know what you're going to find in a cow pasture. Besides, cow patties. But amazingly, I just found a couple of fish. I think these are blowfish. You can see their spines, and you can see their noses, and for one, you can see the tail. Oh, did you see the cricket run down the leaf? And an ant running on the fish? If you listen carefully, you can hear the crickets in the background. Well, these are really milkweed pods. But don't they look like fish? Well, what do we have here? I'm not sure what this creature is, but I bet Dr. Seuss would have a good name for it. It seems to have big mouth, a very big pig-like snout on top of its mouth, one ear, one leg, and a green thingamajig coming out of its nose. Maybe you'd like to name it. We've seen creatures in trees and logs and branches and roots and leaves, but let's not forget about the ones who live in rocks. Here's a stone wall. When you look at it from one end, It's a dinosaur skeleton. The two long rocks in this stone wall could be a crocodile's jaws. Behind the jaws, the rounded rocks look like the crocodile has just swallowed a big meal. It must have swallowed its prey whole because its jaws don't have any teeth. This rock is on a path circling a large pond. Perhaps that's why its shape seemed to me like a fish. Its mouth is on the left side, and its jagged tail fins are on the other side. It's truly a fish out of water. You can find water creatures in many places. I never thought I'd find a whale in the woods, but this whale sure beached up far from the ocean. Speaking of the ocean, I went to the beach this summer and found a flying seahorse coming out of the dune grass, leaping across the seaweed on its way back to the water. Look at its graceful wings and its beautiful feathered tail.
Thank you for joining me on my walks in the woods. We certainly have found a lot of creatures, but we haven't caught a walrus yet. You've learned a lot of tricks and tips for how to spot creatures and how to use your imagination to describe them. So the next time you're out in the woods, look around carefully. See what you see. I bet you'll find a walrus. And when you do, would you send me a photo? Thanks.